During the filming of Schindler's List, Neeson was deeply affected by the gravity of the subject matter and the real human suffering that it depicted. The production took place in Poland, primarily in and around the city of Krakow, where the filmmakers shot on location to create an authentic atmosphere. One of the most famous stories about Neeson from this period came after he filmed a scene in which Schindler has a breakdown after realizing he could have saved more lives. The scene was emotionally intense, with Neeson having to channel the devastation of the character's guilt and grief. After completing this scene, Neeson found himself deeply affected, not just by the gravity of the role, but by the weight of the historical events it depicted. In interviews, Neeson described how, after shooting those scenes, he felt emotionally drained and overwhelmed by the enormity of the history. He was so affected by the experience that he found it difficult to separate himself from the character. It was a transformative period for him, as the emotions of the film and the reality of the Holocaust made a profound impact on him. In fact, Liam Neeson would later say that Schindler's List had a transformative effect on him, not just as an actor, but as a person. While filming, he often visited the concentration camps and met with Holocaust survivors to understand the true scale of the horrors that Schindler's actions helped mitigate. These interactions and the deep emotional connection he felt while portraying Schindler's character made the experience an incredibly humbling one for him, the moment that changed him. The real-life story that truly stands out from this time is the moment when Neeson met a Holocaust survivor on set. The man, a survivor of Auschwitz, came to visit the film's set and spoke to the cast and crew about his experiences. After the meeting, Neeson reportedly said it was the most humbling and profound experience of his life. This interaction had a lasting effect on Neeson, who found it hard to fathom the depth of the suffering and loss caused by the Holocaust. The survivor's story, combined with the intense scenes in the film, had such an emotional toll on Neeson that he said it felt impossible to go back to the set and act after hearing such personal stories of survival. It was during this time that Neeson began to feel a deeper connection to the story he was telling. The role of Oskar Schindler. Neeson's portrayal of Oskar Schindler won him international acclaim, and his performance remains one of the most important of his career. But it was clear from his interviews and his personal reflections that the role left a permanent mark on him, affecting him deeply, both professionally and personally. He has described the experience of making Schindler's List as the most rewarding of his career, but also the most difficult because of the emotional weight of the subject matter. The legacy of Schindler's List on Neeson. After the film wrapped, Neeson went through a period of emotional recovery. In one interview, he shared that he would go home after long days of filming and sit quietly to process the experience. For weeks after production ended, he would sometimes find himself thinking back on the faces of the extras who played Jewish concentration camp victims, and he would experience flashbacks to the harsh realities they portrayed in the film. This deep emotional connection to the role and the trauma it brought up stayed with Neeson even after filming was over. He has mentioned that years later, when he watched Schindler's List again, he found it just as harrowing as the first time he saw it, even though he had been deeply involved in its making. It was clear that the film had changed him. Neeson's continued advocacy for Holocaust education. As a result of the impact Schindler's List had on him, Liam Neeson has continued to be an advocate for Holocaust education. He has publicly spoken about the need to ensure that the history of the Holocaust is not forgotten, and that the lessons learned from the atrocities are passed down to future generations. In 2015, Neeson narrated a documentary called The Holocaust, a learning experience for the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, further cementing his commitment to preserving the memory of those who suffered and died in the Holocaust.